all that often. And we see there, Elie is on 47 points and Faustin is on 45. So that is, you know, we can see who the highest seed are. Elie, we got Elie on 47 points and we've got Faustin on 45. So Elie there is the top seed with that Sapphire Ruby, and Faustin, we got Emerald Amethyst on 45. And you told me yesterday, and I don't know if we ever checked this officially, but apparently only 3 players on 45 points made it. 45 was not safe.
Yeah, so just to confirm, this is Elie with the 47 points. This is their Swiss score. Elie, this is their Swiss score. This is not their seed, so it is going to be Elie as the highest seed,
yes,
who's going to be going first. And I think that makes for a more interesting matchup. I think the Emerald Amethyst player, when going first, is going to feel really, really confident. And I think the fact that we're seeing Ruby Sapphire have the advantage being the highest seed is going to make things even more interesting.
Yes, I think I said 47 points. If I didn't,
you did.
I apologize. I
was just wondering if there was a chance. Look at that, Let It Go.
Oh.
They've got the foil Let It Go promo card, which you get for getting top 128. There's also Teeth and Ambitions in there. This is the mulligan stage. Player going first.
Looks like they might
first.
Okay, so we're keeping 3, pitching 4 over on Elie's side there.
And Faustin does have that Cursed Merfolk on turn 1. The question is, when you go in second, do you keep a Cursed Merfolk? It can be a little bit risky to do so, but I think up against Ruby Sapphire, you're absolutely going to hold on to this. There's a few uninkables, such as Diablo and Peter Pan Shadowfinder. Really, for Faustin, they're going to be looking for as much early questing power as possible. They do keep a Diablo, they kept a Cursed Merfolk, and kept 1 other card.
Yeah, the Merfolk, I mean, it's still a great turn 1 play. Unless you can show me a better turn 1 play, then I want to keep the Cursed Merfolk. You're right, it's better going first, but it's still a good play going second. And worst case scenario, it forces your opponent to answer it. So sometimes it can be nice to just force your opponent to expend resources getting rid of it. And if they don't, then the questing power gets very, very good very, very quickly.
I'm so happy to see Elie with that Let It Go promo card in their deck. So it's going to, hopefully they didn't get rid of it in the mulligan. I imagine Let It Go is not necessarily a card you're going to hold on to in the mulligan unless you plan on using it for ink. But it's going to be great for our audience to see that card in the game. It is just an absolutely beautiful artwork, but with that special foiling, which you get for the Disney Lorcana Challenge cards, is just glorious.
And with 100, you know, top 128 out of 2,000 players, that is a lot. We see, is that a Queen getting it?
That certainly is. So this Ruby Sapphire deck really focused on items, which is not the usual way we see it being built, with an ice block down on the board. That could be great. And we see improvising. It's not a card you see that often. I've been talking about it a lot for set 5, but the Merfolk on 1 is exactly what you want if you're Emerald Amethyst.
We see Tamatoa getting inked there. And I was telling you about Queen yesterday and how I thought it was an underrated card. Love seeing it in top 32 here. So back over to Faustin here. We've got the Cursed Merfolk in the active. We'll be able to quest this turn. Going and getting 2 lore, getting him off the board, which is going to be lovely. What do we have for a turn 2 play?
Yeah, so there's the Ursula Deceiver as an option, but there's also a slightly unorthodox option, which could be to play the snake and bounce the Cursed Merfolk back into hand, perhaps anticipating that there could be that turn 3 Sisu. But it is going to be the Ursula, and there is no songs available, so no discard available. Look at that double Sisu.
Double Sisu, double Queen, bearing in mind 1 got inks, that's 3 Queen in the opening hand, plus a Havisham there as well. I like that Queen card. I don't know if I want 3 of them in my opening hand, but at least they do work as ink.
Yep, they can be inked. Very flexible card, and Eli's deck is very much built around this Queen and cards like Scuttle putting in big work. They have so many items in their deck. Cards like Maurice's Workshop, Shield of Virtue. It looks like the Queen is going to be inked, and I think we're going to see the power of this uninkable Sisu here. It's going to be able to come in on turn 3, banish a character with 1 strength or less, which could be the Merfolk, it could be the Ursula, but it's going to be the Queen instead.
I love this.
That's really interesting.
Queen, you can exert it, and then you look at the top, is it 4 cards of your deck, you find an item card, and you can actually play it if it's, of course, 3 or less, I believe.
Yeah, I'm really interested. Elie here deciding that they're not too worried about Faustin's questing power and can afford to just develop their own engine first and then perhaps remove the Kerfolk the next turn. That is, of course, going to mean Faustin's going to get 2 extra lore, which they otherwise Elie could have denied. So could be a pivotal moment that we look back on at this game to see, was that the correct call from Elie? It's definitely a really, really interesting play, and surely they know better than I do. They've got a lot of experience with this Ruby Sapphire deck, but it could come back to haunt them. If Faustin's getting really, really close to that 20 mark, this 2 lore Elie could have denied last turn could be pivotal.
It absolutely could. That is something which always makes me nervous, letting that Cursed Merfolk quest, but that Queen does, it's going to give a lot of utility. We see a card being inked there. Now, we could play another Queen if we wanted to go a little bit silly.
Oh my goodness, we see the Ice Block on Diablo, and the Sisu removes it with ease. The combo of dreams. Ice Block, Sisu, goodbye Diablo, and the Queen is not going to challenge the Merfolk. It's going to exert to use its ability, and the Merfolk remains and lives to fight another day. Bad news, no items.
There is an item.
Maurice's Workshop, and it's a 3-cost item, played for free, absolutely maximizing the value of the Queen.
Yeah, I love that. You get to search an item from the top 4. If it's free or less, you get to play it. This is why the Queen comes in, and we see maybe why the Sisu was being held there, because it actually was great up against the Diablo. We do still have Sisu in hand, so I still think there's a decent chance it comes down next turn, because that Merfolk, it's all, you know, Faustin's already up to 5 lore. Elie here does need to stop them at some point. A lot of flying things in Faustin's hand.
Yes. Yeah, it's such a fascinating start to this game. Elie on that turn 3 deciding to develop their own draw engine first. And Faustin just going to be able to get that extra questing power. If Elie was going second, I don't think they would ever be able to make such a decision. But the fact that they're going first, they feel like they can get away with it. Pegasus is shifted in. Merfolk and Ursula are now evasive and cannot be challenged. What a play by Faustin. This Pegasus is drying on the ink, so it's not going to be able to quest or anything itself, but evasive on the Merfolk and Ursula. But this Sisu on the board is also evasive, Ross, and that is going to be really important for Elie.
Yeah, it gives a challenging option. I'm just looking at Elie's side of the board here. 3 of the 4 cards they've got in play, we basically haven't seen in any list all weekend.
No, absolutely.
This is a very, you know, it might be Ruby Sapphire, but it is a very, very different Ruby Sapphire build. Now, we do have an Ice Block there. We have got a
Maurice's Workshop as well. So Maurice's Workshop is whenever you play an item, you may pay 1 ink to draw a card. And Elie is really relying on this Maurice's Workshop as their card draw engine. Don't have cards like Dig a Little Deeper. Don't play things like Grandma Tala, maybe not How Far I'll Go. Instead, going down that item route, which is really fascinating to see a Ruby Sapphire player with this approach and them succeeding so well.
Yeah, it's always nice to see people doing something a little bit different. Makes me rather happy.
Absolutely.
We're using a couple of ink here. We're using an Ice Block. We're drawing a card with the Workshop. We are inking a card, and I mean, is it time for Sisu to take out the Merfolk?
It could even be double Ice Block onto Pegasus, and the Sisu could even take out the Pegasus. Of course, if you challenge the Merfolk, you are going to be... But there it is, the Sisu onto the Pegasus. Double Ice Block Sisu. And now this Sisu could challenge Merfolk, but it would force Elie to discard a card. We're seeing the Queen's ability now. Look at all those items. Shield of Virtue, Porpsicle, or Vitalosphere can be played for free, but they'll come in exerted, and really fascinating to see the Shield of Virtue picked over the Porpsicle there.
But it's interesting to note the other cards go to the bottom of your deck. There is now a Be Prepared at the bottom of the deck. We see a challenge with Sisu into the Merfolk, but that is one copy of Be Prepared, which is essentially out of commission for a while.
Yeah.
That's just not coming back, not anytime soon.
And let's not forget, that was an evasive Merfolk right there. Faustin shifted in Pegasus to give this Merfolk evasive, but Elie with that Sisu, it has been the absolute star of the show in this one. The 3-cost uninkable Sisu putting in so much work.
All I'm saying is, right, Elie's got a bunch of items being built up. You know who loves items?
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
I feel like we've not seen many boards that have really taken advantage of it this weekend so far, but I do feel like Elie is building up to a potential gigantic Tamatoa line, and that would make me very happy indeed. We're not there yet, but it's just something to look out for. A Tamatoa right now would be questing for 5. I know we don't have enough ink, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But Faustin does not seem to be playing much item hate, much item removal here.
No.
So it feels like Elie can, you know, and it's not like we're playing a Havisham build here where we're just constantly getting rid of all the items to draw. We could see a gigantic swing turn as we see a Merlin Fox being inked and a non-shifted Pegasus coming into play.
Yeah, one of the big weaknesses of Emerald Amethyst is you don't have access to a card like Benja. Most of the item removal cards are not great, and therefore items can be a real problem. We do see the Ursula Deceiver quest for 1, so Faustin is now at 9 lore, only 11 away, but Elie only at 0, but that's going to change pretty quickly as they continue to develop their board. This queen play on turn 3 was just so heads up from Elie, deciding that they just had the time to stall out thanks to the power of the Sisus, the double ice block as well. It's just been a tremendous start from this series by Elie.
And keeping those ice block in play means you can just be constantly lowering power over and over again.
There's a Tamatoa. Tamatoa is in the deck confirmed. Elie with 4 cards, of course, from the Queen. So they're going to find a Porpsicle, and they're going to be able to play that for free. That is the only item they found. But this is the 3rd time that the Queen has been exerted to play an item for free.
It is. Porpsicle comes down. There is a Tamatoa now towards the bottom of the deck, which is awkward. Although the more you play the Queen, the more the first cards at the bottom do get shifted up towards the top. But there's 4 Tamatoa in the deck. We will be fine. I think my big shiny crab friend might be coming around. Here we go.
Oh, the shift Sisu.
Legendary Sisu. And with the ice block there, lowering Pegasus' strength. Boom. Down they both go.
Wow, what a play. We're seeing the power of the ice blocks in this one. A lot of Ruby Sapphire players moved away from it, but this item heavy build is absolutely taking advantage of them. The Diablo 1 cost comes in from Faustin, and it sees a Flavisham, and Flavisham means more cards where that came from. We see the Diablo Legendary as well, but Elie is just looking in an absolutely dominant position right now.
Yeah, this is going beautifully. Of course, we do have Havisham here. We're not seeing it in this game. It's why we're seeing the items build up, but we can play Havisham. Oh, we see a whiff on the Queen, but it does push things like that Be Prepared and Tamatoa towards the top of the deck. So it's not completely useless. And is that Havisham hitting the field, getting rid of that Porpsicle? Now we draw cards.
Yeah, there is a Scuttle in hand. There is also a Vitalosphere and a Fortosphere. A Scuttle?
No, it's Scuttle.
Okay, it is a Vitalosphere. I thought I got the
Vitalosphere.
The Fortosphere is the steel one.
Yes, I just know how you like Scuttle, so I just really wanted to.
Oh my goodness, the Shield of Virtue readies the Queen, and her ability has been used twice this turn. What a deck by Elie. It's absolutely glorious.
I love this Queen. I keep telling people, I literally told you on the way to dinner last night that I like this Queen. I think it's underrated, and I am very much enjoying watching Elie show us all just how underrated this card is. And between games, I've got a nice little story about Queen, but I'll save that. This game is too exciting. We've got Diablo coming in here, and we've got a Vitalosphere and Scuttle.
Yeah.
That is the hand. But there's so much draw available with Hiram Flavisham and all those items on the board, with Queen getting some items, and Maurice's workshop. There's so much potential here for draw on Elie's side of the board. That hand is deceptive.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Ross. I've been very critical of the card Scuttle being in players' Sapphire Steel decks in the past, for example, but when you've got this many items, Scuttle is going to be hitting an item very, very consistently, and it has the potential to be an amazing card. And Elie has clearly found the right home for it with this deck as we see another item come down. But where's Tamatoa, Ross? I know you're waiting for it.
I am. We've seen one so far, but it was from a Queen. It didn't work. We get Rush and the extra strength given to Sisu to take out the Diablo, of course. Sisu being evasive really helps, and I'm getting a hankering to watch Raya and the Last Dragon right now.
I think this is the 6th time or so we've seen the Queen exerted to play an item for free, and she's hit every single time.
No, that was one whiff.
Okay.
That was one whiff. But hitting 5 out of 6 is fine by me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. The Shield of Virtue still on the board as well. We did see Elie decide to play that instead of a Porpsicle, and I was surprised. But then we see the synergy that it can have with the Queen. It comes through again. You're paying a little bit of ink. The Queen's going to ready and now challenge the Diablo, and it's not even going to take any damage back thanks to that ice block. What a combo deck this is.
I am loving these combos. I really want to try this deck.
Yes.
I would stay away from Sapphire a bit, but I'm telling you, this seems good. And here's the thing. Elie has now got up to 11 lore. Kept enough characters on the board to just do a little bit of cheeky questing here and there while building up that well of items and controlling the board with Sisu and Queen. And it seems like Elie is completely in control of this game one. This is absolutely beautiful play here. And if a Tamatoa hits the board, it is over.
Yeah, and again, I just think that turn 3 play from Elie, I was so convinced they were going to go for the Sisu, but they felt confident enough to develop that Queen engine on turn 3, and then using the Sisu 3-cost uninkable to help control the board, those ice blocks, and really slow down Faustin. They were really starting off the game well. They got to like 8 lore very quickly, but since then it's been absolute dominance from Elie.
Yeah, it's been just taken out. Everything Faustin plays down just gets removed immediately. And Elie's doing the thing so many of these decks do when they're successful. Gaining lore here and there when it's convenient, but really shutting your opponent down and building your board. The lore kind of comes later. If you've got a much better board than your opponent, you're going to win. It is, let's get my board, control my opponents, everything else will come from there.
Absolutely. Currently, there is quite a lot of questing power. Flavisham and the Queen for 1, but the Sisu for 3. So Elie, without the dime, is still able to quest for 5. But Faustin is now also only 8 away, so they're not so far away. They have 3 lore on the board potentially for themselves. But when you're up against Ruby Sapphire, I think you're fully expecting your cards to get removed pretty consistently.
We've got Gaston, Maurice's Workshop, there's an Ice Block and a Maui in hand. So we do see Ice Block lowering power. That Merfolk is a bit of a problem with evasive. We're using Queen here. And we are grabbing ourselves
a Fishbone Quill for nothing at all.
Another. Oh no, we're changing our mind.
The Fishhook.
The Fishhook. And there is a Maui in hand to use the Fishhook if you want to next turn.
Yeah, so Maui's Fishhook, you can either give a character evasive or some extra challenging strength, and it's going to cost you. But if you've got Maui on the board, it's going to cost you nothing at all to do so. It is exerted for now, as the Queen plays the item exerted. But it could definitely be something that Elie could make use of. As a third ice block comes through.
8 items on the board here for Elie. And we do see Maui coming down, taking out the Diablo. Next turn, Maui's Fishhook can give it Reckless to take out the Merfolk. And we go up to 15 lore. I don't think we even need to take out the Merfolk next turn. Faustin can get to 17 here. But what we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we're not actually there yet for Elie. There's not 8 lore on the board.
But there is a couple of dimes in the hand. Not 1 lucky dime,
oh
but
my
2.
Goodness. I think we're good. I think we may, yeah. And then that Sisu questing for free. You quest, you copy it with the lucky dime. That is 6, and then we can just quest Avisham. And there we go. Elie wins game 1 in fairly dominant fashion with one of maybe my favorite deck I've ever seen on stream.
Yeah, it's got to be a contender, but I love that you just play that Diablo, look at Elie's hand, and then you're like, yep, double dime. Okay, time to go into the next game. Of course, that means that the loser of game 1 is going to be going first in game 2, and that is going to change things. Emerald Amethyst wants to be the deck going first, so that Curse Merfolk on turn 1 could be pretty devastating. And if it does go to a game 3, Ross, it's going to be really interesting to see if Elie has a slightly worse opener, if they don't have access to those 3-cost uninkable Sisu cards, they can't remove as many characters early on. It could be a very different game.
Oh, it absolutely could be, but I enjoyed watching that, and we'll see, you know, sometimes you see one game of a deck, and look, they've made it to top 32. They're clearly a phenomenal player with a phenomenal deck, no argument there. The question is whether it is good enough to go further. So far, so good. But I was in Italy, I was in Bologna a few weeks ago, and I tried to buy an Italian booster pack of Ursula's Return. I thought I'd bought an Italian booster pack Turned out I'd accidentally bought an English booster pack, and then I pulled a reverse legendary queen, the one we've just seen here. And I felt very good about accidentally buying an English booster pack in Italy. Then, of course, I pulled the enchanted version of that card on the stream in Bochum, which is why I've been looking at that card a lot more. It's a card that card is following me.
Yeah.
That queen is after me, and now I'm watching Elie play this top 32 game at the Disney Lorcana Challenge in Bologna, and I'm thinking, maybe I'm being shown how to play this card.
There's also a lot of new items coming in Shimmering Skies, which are going to give some other really interesting options for the Queen. We did see some players experimenting with the Queen in Sapphire Steel, but it definitely seems like it's got a slightly better home in Ruby Sapphire. Of course, Sapphire Steel, you can play a whole new world for card draw. Ruby Sapphire can really struggle for card draw, and this Maurice's Workshop Queen combo put in so much work there. It's so impressive to see.
Yeah, and you do have Havisham there, which can draw as well. It seems to be a deck that really wants to keep the items on board more than necessarily some of these Sapphire Steel decks we see. But Havisham there as an option to start getting rid of some of them and drawing cards is always a bonus as well. Elie's deck worked perfectly last game. If we can see that again, I think we're seeing them in the European Championships, whatever that might be. Faustin here needs a better start than last game. So we had the Merfolk, but very little else.
Yeah, that Merfolk on turn 1 was definitely nice, but when going second, it just gave Elie that opportunity to really get back control of the board. They were able to be greedy and play that Queen on turn 3, but in this situation when Elie's going second, I would really expect them to be looking for that Sisu play on turn 3 to just answer the questing power as quickly as they possibly can. They're not going to have many characters on turn 1 and turn 2 either. Sapphire preferring to play items on turn 1 and turn 2. You can see Porpsicle, Ice Block. There's that Vitalosphere. We know they have Shield the Virtue as well. So many one-cost items for Elie. Might struggle for one-cost characters, which means that 3-cost Sisu on turn 3 could be huge. Now, Elie's put down the cards. Are they not mulliganing anything? Ross, what's going on here? Elie going second.
I mean, if they are going second, you do have the opportunity to make your opponent do their mulligan first.
Absolutely.
Whoever's going first has to mulligan first, and we see a lot of the time, people just don't worry, they just go for it. But there is extra information to be gleaned. How aggressive is your opponent mulliganing? The general rule is the more aggressively they're mulliganing, the worse their hand was. If they only put 1 or 2 back, you need to think, my opponent has got what they want. They're playing on their preferred curve, 1 cost on turn 1, 2 cost on turn 2, etc. I need to be a little more careful. If they've kept 1 card, could that be the Cursed Merfolk?
Yeah, it could be.
That's what we're thinking if we're Elie here, but it's good, relevant information. It's very rare to see a player keep their entire hand pre-mulligan.
Yeah.
It happens, but it's rare.
Yeah, and also not only are you gaining more information about your opponent's hand from their mulligan, but you're also making sure that you're not giving your opponent any unnecessary information, because if Elie was about to mulligan 7 cards, Faustin might feel a little bit more confident about keeping a few more. So definitely makes sense as the player going second to use every advantage available to you, and just waiting to confirm your mulligan until after your opponent has done it is something you can absolutely expect to see the very best players doing at this level.
Yeah, and we are 1 game away from Elie for getting that invitation to the European Championships, getting that Rapunzel playmat, and of course a shot at the Mickey next round. This is the first real, what I like to call, pinch point of the tournament. This is where we're going to separate the players who get the invite from the players who don't.
Okay, so I'm looking at Elie's hand, and I'm not seeing many 1-cost characters. In fact, I'm not seeing a single 1-cost character. And what's more, Ross, I'm not seeing a 2-cost character either. And they mulligan 6 cards, so you can certainly imagine that they were looking for some more cheap characters to play down onto the board. No Cursed Merfolk on 1, and for Elie, that is going to be music to their ears.
That's basically an extra turn for Elie here. It's as good as, in some ways, it's as good as just going first. Your opponent, okay, they got the first ink, but no Diablo, no Cursed Merfolk. That is a huge win for you, because let's face it, you're going to jump ahead in ink. You're playing Sapphire. So this is just wonderful here. I love that we're doing this. Although I say that, is Elie playing any ramping cards?
There is the fishbone quill.
Of course there is. Okay, so yes, Elie will, and it's in hand as well. So Elie is going to be going ahead on ink at some point, seeing your opponent with his huge, and again, no 2-cost card. So Faustin is just inked and passed, 2 pops go from Elie here, 2 extra cards in hand, and next turn is where Elie really wants to start going with stuff like Queen. And why play Sisu when this has been your opponent's start?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm liking turn 3 Queen here.
There was an absolutely huge grimace from Faustin when this second turn card draw came through, as it was not a playable character. There's the Cursed Merfolk, a little bit late for Faustin's sake. Would have liked that on turn 1, would have even liked it on turn 2. Could of course come down later on. On turn 3, it looks like it's going to be a Diablo, not a quick questing card either. The good news is Ice Block not available for Elie, because Ice Block plus that turn 3 uninkable Sisu could have been curtains for Diablo.
Yeah, that would have been terrible getting that quite so early. Not there now, but as soon as we get this third ink down, we are going to potentially have a Queen in play, and that is going to be a rather handy bonus indeed.
We could see the Queen inked and the Queen played. The other inkable cards are Maui, Fishbone Quill, Flaversham, and Maui's Fishhook. It is a Queen inked, and surely it's going to be another Queen play, but perhaps it could also be the Fishbone Quill here. Not too worried about the early questing power. Does decide to go for the Queen as a potential engine. We saw how valuable that was in the previous game. Card drawn off the hop is Friends on the other side.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking you could use Queen and potentially get a Fishbone Quill next turn anyway.
That's very true. Very, very true. So Friends is sung by Diablo. 2 more cards in the hand. There is Queen's Castle, there's an Ursula Deceiver, Curse, Merfolk, Pegasus as options. 3 ink available. And of course, they are also still able to ink this turn to get up to 4 ink.
Could play the Queen's Castle Mirror Chamber, that could be fun.
Pegasus looks like the card that Faustin is considering to ink, but just having some second thoughts about that. No shift target available just yet. It's definitely a line that you're looking to do quite often with Emerald Amethyst, is shift in this Pegasus and give all your characters like Curse Merfolk evasive. We saw Faustin go for that exact play in game 1, but the evasive power of Sisu and the Ice Block really shut down that line.
It absolutely did. Now we see the Ursula being inked. Here is the Queen's Castle Mirror Chamber, getting that 2 passive law return, basically forcing Elie to deal with it. And with 7 willpower, it's actually a very annoying thing to deal with.
I've got good news, Ross. Elie's just drawn Tamatoa.
Yes, we didn't see it last game. We might see it this game. We see Maui's Fishhook come down.
Oh my goodness. We're seeing Maui's Fishhook. We're seeing the Vitalosphere go on to the Queen, and it's going to challenge the Queen's Castle for 5 damage. And the Maui's Fishhook preferred over the Fishbone Quill, which seems odd, but when there's a Diablo on the board, this Maui's Fishhook has the opportunity to give one of your characters evasive, and there's a Maui in the hand. So Maui can rush in, be given evasive for no cost at all by the Maui's Fishhook, and Maui's Fishhook and Maui combining to potentially remove an evasive Diablo.
Yeah, that will work. And then, of course, the Queen could potentially just finish off this Queen's Castle Mirror Chamber, and then your opponent's got nothing. And this is what we saw from Elie back in game 1. Let the law take care of itself when it's appropriate, build up your items, and shut your opponent's board down. Counter everything they do, and grab law at convenient times. We had the possibility for a big law swing with Tamatoa.
We see improvise, a huge play. Diablo now with 3 strength until the end of the turn, and it could now remove the Queen as an option. It did also draw a card, so Diablo with 3 strength until the end of Faustin's turn here.
You've got to think that is to try and get roll. A second Queen's Castle. Queen goes down, and this is annoying. The Diablo does actually trade with the Queen, but Faustin here is just going passive law from the castle is too good. But it's Maui time, and there we are, taking out the Queen's Castle in one go with the extra strength you get from the Fishhook. Maui can't take down the Queen's Castle, but with his hook.
Yes. Absolutely amazing. I mean, these Queen's Castles are such a weakness of Ruby Sapphire. We see a lot of Ruby Sapphire players playing the Vitalosphere, but Elie's got not only the Vitalosphere, but the Fishhook as well. Even the Shield of Virtue can allow characters to challenge twice in a single turn. So Elie has so many answers to the Queen's Castle, which is often considered the biggest weakness of Ruby Sapphire. It is glorious to see the deck building on show here.
Yeah, I am absolutely loving this, making sure you've got answers to everything to which you need to have answers, and this is beautiful from Elie here. And once again, you look at the board, Elie's got some items down, you've got your Maui down. On the other side of the board, it's not looking so good. We do see the Merlin Rabbit come down, Ursula get inked, and a Cursed Merfolk, a double Cursed Merfolk. Now we might be talking.
Yeah, Faustin in an ideal world would have been playing like a Merfolk on turn 1 and then 2 more Merfolks on turn 2. So it's definitely late to be getting these Merfolks down, but it's certainly better late than never. Elie going to be really hoping to find that legendary Sisu at this point, because that would remove the whole board. It's going to be Flaversham for 4 ink, and the Porpsicle is banished. Elie drawing 2 more cards for their trouble. Scuttle and Flaversham were drawn.
And we're inking a Flaversham.
Time for Scuttle. Is Scuttle going to do the business? They're going to look at 4 cards, and an item is able to come into the hand, and Scuttle hits. So many items available. The consistency of Elie's deck is really paying off. Goodbye Queen's Castle as Maui trades into it, and Maui has now been given evasive as well, it seems, by the Fishhook.
And now we've got 5 ink, 5 lore coming down from Faustin. We'll only put him up to 9. Not there yet by any strength of any stretch of the imagination, but is starting to get a little bit closer here. The double Queen's Castle was scary, but it was dealt with. The double Cursed Merfolk is scary. Hopefully they'll be dealt with by Elie here. Still no lore. Still in that phase of the game where you're really going after your opponent's board. And for Faustin here, it's just, I'm going to get some cards down. Can I get some benefit out of them before they inevitably go away? And if I can do that often enough, I can squeak this game too.
Faustin deciding to sing Friends on the other side with the Rabbit, so they can still quest for 4 here this turn with the Merfolk. Gonna have a peek at Elie's hand with the Diablo, sees that dreaded Tamatoa. Maurice's Workshop, Ice Block and Shield of Virtue are available. So knows that there's no threat of that Sisu coming through just yet, but of course lots of card draw available for Elie with that Flaversham on the board.
Yeah, Flaversham is a great option. It's nice building up a store of items, but sometimes using Flaversham to draw can be just as good and lovely. So, and if you're Faustin here, it's a really awkward decision, because if you can just keep questing, but you know your cards aren't going to last that long. You know that Sisu is an option coming down. You know that Elie can give evasive to Maui to go after them potentially. Lots of draw to replace the cards lost when you challenge the Merfolk. And you've only got 4 cards in hand. You've got no draw engine on the board. So you don't want to get to like 12, 13, 14 lore and end up with no cards in hand and nothing on the board. So I believe what Faustin's thinking here is, look, I can get some lore here with the Merfolk. That's great. That's lovely. How am I going to get this working for the rest of the game? Yeah. Because I need to finish this out.
I think the line for Faustin that they're considering, they have a 5-cost Pegasus in hand. They don't currently have that 1-cost Emerald Pegasus. If they can shift in Pegasus, they can get evasive on all of their cards, and that could allow them to get that extra turn of questing they're looking for. The risk for that is, if you don't quest this turn with the Merfolks, there's a very good chance Elie's going to draw into that legendary Sisu, and therefore the Cursed Merfolks would be removed. But in this position, Faustin's maybe left with no choice but to take a risk like that at this moment in time, and I really like to see them really taking their time at a big moment. 5 ink going to be exerted. It's probably going to be the Cricky as the option, which can quest for 3, but it is in fact just going to be the Pegasus, deciding not to go for that shift Pegasus line and instead just questing instead. I love how Faustin really slowed down at this moment in time. It was a big decision. They could have gone for that risky line to try and draw into the Pegasus, but they decide it's just too risky and not worth it.
And sometimes that's where you've got to go, and it does seem to be working. We've got a Tamatoa hitting the inkwell here, so no Tamatoa in hand anymore. We see Maurice's workshop being played, adding another item to the pile, and now it looks like we're paying 2 ink for a Shield of Virtue and an Ice Block. Oh, Ice Block's lowering the power of Rabbit. Maui's taking out Rabbit.
Yeah, so Maui only taking 1 damage back, and then Scuttle and Flaversham are going to challenge the Merfolks, which is going to force Elie to discard. But that Lucky Dime, while it's in the discard pile, it can be fetched pretty comfortably by our friend Tamatoa later on. Faustin at 8 lore, 12 away, can quest for 3 to get to 11, and that evasive Pegasus isn't going to be super useful with the power of the Maui's fishhook on Elie's side of the board.
Yeah, having an evasive character questing for 2 is great because it's so hard to get rid of for a lot of decks. But Maui's fishhook here giving the perfect answer, and it does feel like Elie's got the answer to pretty much everything in Faustin's deck here. It might not be this case for every matchup, but right now, you got your evasive cards, don't worry, I've got that. You've got your really good questing low power cards, don't worry, I've got an answer for that as well. And you're not doing so great at having an answer to my items. You don't have much item removal in your deck. Do you have a Rabbit though?
Yeah, Rabbit hitting the board, going to be a card drawn for Faustin. Has a few ink remaining, I believe 2 ink remaining. Does find that 1 cost Pegasus.
Just in time.
Yeah, probably a little bit too late, unfortunately. They decided to shift in that Pegasus, but I think because they played the Rabbit this turn, it possibly would have been too late anyway. They only have 2 ink available. If they played the Rabbit and drew into the Pegasus, they wouldn't have the 4 ink necessary to play the Pegasus and shift the Pegasus. So
fortunately not.
What they can try to do is quest, and then while their characters are exerted, they can be bounced back to hand and replayed readied with cards like the Madam Mim, Snake and Fox. That could allow them to get that extra questing power. Elie doesn't have much questing power at all and has no cards in hand currently, but that Flaversham is on the board with evasive and can draw cards very, very quickly.
Yeah, it really can. It works very nicely indeed. So a lot of decisions being made here by Faustin. Ahead in the board in terms of lore by having 8-0, but not as good a board position. And we saw what happened back in game 1. So your Madam Mim Fox comes in, takes out the Maui. There is a trade there. Both those characters go down. Maui was being a little bit of a pain. Gets up to 11 lore here. And now it's over to Elie to decide, you know, building your board is good and playing keep away is good, but you do at some point need to start, you know, getting some stuff rolling. We got 4 items down after using Hiram Flaversham to draw 2. With the questing, we've got an Ice Block down now.
Maurice's workshop is going to be triggered to draw another card. So Elie started the turn with no cards in hand, drew for the start of the turn for 1. They've played an Ice Block, and they still got 3 more cards in hand. That is the power of this Flaversham and Maurice's workshop, as we see the Scuttle combining with the Fishhook to remove the Diablo. And that Pegasus is still on the board, still with evasive. But the Ice Block plus Sisu is going to remove it from the board. And the Grimace from Faustin tells you all you need to know.
And we are now getting to that stage. It's like a lot of Sapphire decks, you are going to fall behind. The question is, can you get enough setup rolling while you fall behind to bring it back in the late game? And Elie might be there. We got 3 characters and 5 items on the board. You have completely gotten rid of your opponent's board in its entirety. You are down by 10 lore, but you've got enough ink there that Tamatoa is now an option. And a Tamatoa Lucky Dime combination could get you to 20 lore very quickly.
Now, there is a go in Faustin's hand, and there is a snake as well, so this bounce potential can start coming through for Faustin and get them to that 20 mark very quickly. Let's not forget, Ross, this was a game where Faustin missed that turn 1 and turn 2 character,
yes,
but they're still in this game. It is not over yet. If you can get to 16 lore, it's only a goat and a few bounces away from getting to 20.
That is a worry when you're playing against any deck with a bounce engine. If they get, there's a lot of decks that'll get to 16, 17, sputter out, not win. But because you've got the goat, you can play it, bounce it, bounce it, etc. And then it goes away and it gets another law and it finally gets taken down. And getting that last 3 or 4 law with the goat bounce combination is so much easier than most other decks getting those last few law. There's a few other ways to do it, like the super goofs that I won't shut up about, which still never actually sees a huge amount of play. But in terms of cards that you can play and immediately get law to get you over the line, there aren't that many. It really is the GOAT that is, pardon the pun, the GOAT here.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is, I think, 7 ink available here for Faustin. They have a GOAT, they have a couple of Diablos, they have a Rabbit, and maybe at least 1 Snake, quite possibly 2. The problem with these Diablos is the card draw at this stage is just too slow.
Yeah.
They're only questing for 1, but they're also uninkable. In fact, it's only 1 Diablo and it's a Cricky. So 1 Diablo, 1 Cricky, who does quest for 3, could be a really interesting option for Faustin to try and get some questing power with. They're still deciding on exactly what to do at this stage, and it is going to be the GOAT. So they're up to 12, and it's going to be the Snake as well, up to 13. And this is the power of the GOAT. That GOAT back in hand, Faustin can draw into some more bounce targets. That 13 law mark can keep being bumped up, slowly creeping towards 20. It's on Elie. They have the Flavisham on the board for more card draw. Tamatoa and Lucky Dime in hand.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That is a combo. Elie right now sitting on 1 law to Faustin's 13, but this gets big quickly. Yeah, you need to play the Tamatoa just to open up the questing the following turn, honestly.
The Shield of Virtue banished by the Flavisham. Gaston inked. Be Prepared was also drawn. I don't expect to see Elie playing Be Prepared here, Ross.
No. You've got your Flavisham, your Sisu, and your Tamatoa, as well as Scuttle. And your opponent's just got the Madam Mim Snake. And here's the thing. Next turn, Tamatoa is questing for a minimum of 6. Plus then Lucky Dime will get another 6. If you can play 1 item, it's game next turn. 1 item, Tamatoa quest for 7, Lucky Dime gets 7, and oh no, but you would need it. Yeah, because you need Tamatoa to quest for 7. Oh no, because then you've got Scuttle and Havisham. No, you've got game on board.
Okay.
I'm overthinking this, sorry. We've got Tamatoa will quest for 12... 16. No, you will be... No, you'll actually be 1 short. But yeah, so what you can do is you quest with Tamatoa, you will get yourself 6 law, then you get an item back, play it down, and Lucky Dime copies for 7, that's 13, puts you up to 17.
Certainly does.
Havisham, Scuttle, Sisu, 20, boom!
Yep.
Game is on board for Elie right now. I like doing the Tamatoa maths.
Yeah, so Faustin does therefore need to remove this Scuttle at very minimum. Can do so with the Snake. They've got a Goat, a Rabbit, a Pegasus 1-cost character in hand as well. Now, the Maui's Fishhook did not give anything evasive this turn, so all the characters on Elie's side of the board, apart from the 3-cost Sisu, are not evasive. It is going to be a Rabbit, possibly hoping to find a Fox here, as this would allow them to quest with the Snake, and they do find exactly the Fox. They now, rather than having to challenge with the Snake, in theory, they could take the risk and quest with the Snake, rush him with the Fox, and remove the Scuttle that way, because that's just going to allow Faustin to get that 1 extra law, and every law at this stage is going to matter. They are going to be inking Cricky, it appears. That is the card they're hovering over. Of course, they'd love to use that Fox on the Merlin down the line as well. That could also be an option. It's going to be 4. It's going to be for Pegasus Diablo. Are we going to see the Snake challenge the Scuttle, or is the Snake going to quest?
You've got to take that one. Unless I've made a mistake with my maths, I think game is on the board for Elie here.
It's a quest. It's a quest for Faustin up to 14. 16 law needed for Elie in a single turn.
We should be able to get this. So we are seeing the Brawl getting inked. So first we're going to play the Lucky Dime, I believe.
Yeah, and Faustin didn't know that Dime was available.
And then so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh yes, that's already it. So Tamatoa quest, Lucky Dime copies, quest with a couple of the others, and that is it. That is the game. We go from 4 to actually 21 at least.
Wow.
because I forgot with Tamatoa you play the lucky dime and you don't even need Tamatoa. Of course, Tamatoa could get more, but it doesn't matter. Elie gets all the way from 4 to over 20 in one go, moves on to top 16 and gets that invite to the Disney Lorcana European Championships. And you could have questioned with Tamatoa, got an item, played it, then lucky dime. So I think you could have got to like 22, 23 there, but it's all irrelevant. Tamatoa lucky dime, what a